I've never been a fan of camping. Sleeping in a bag on the cold, hard ground, waking up feeling damp and freezing, and pretending that bugs aren't crawling all over you. Yeah, it's just not my thing. But my dad, he loved it. Every single summer, he'd drag me out into the woods with his friends, going on and on about how nature builds character. By my sophomore year of high school, I'd had enough. I begged him to let me bring my best friend Charles along, hoping that having a friend there would make the whole miserable experience a little more bearable. To my surprise, he actually said yes. Now, Charles was one of those rare people who genuinely enjoyed camping. He knew how to start a fire with just a few sticks. He could tie all sorts of complicated knots, and he could even tell you which berries in the forest wouldn't kill you. He was genuinely excited about the trip. I was just praying there'd be a single bar of Wi-Fi. Spoiler alert, there wasn't. After what felt like an eternity in the car, we finally reached the campsite and instantly knew something was wrong. This wasn't the peaceful, secluded spot in the deep woods my dad had described. We had ended up in this overcrowded, commercialized family campground. It had paved paths, rows of RVs hooked up to electricity, bright lights everywhere, and even a mini golf course. My dad was absolutely fuming. This was his worst nightmare. But the weirdest part? Right next to this bustling campground was an abandoned amusement park. It was completely derelict. Half of the rides were still standing, just rusted skeletons against the sky. In the distance, a massive Ferris wheel was frozen mid-spin, its empty cars swaying slightly in the breeze. The whole place looked like it was ripped straight out of a forgotten horror movie. That night, after a dinner of burnt hot dogs, Charles and I sat by the fire while the adults did their adult talk thing. Around midnight, we started to get bored. Charles nudged me and whispered, "Hey, you want to go check out that old park?" I laughed at first, thinking he was joking. He wasn't. And against my better judgment, 10 minutes later, we were sneaking towards the tall chain-link fence with our flashlights, our hearts pounding. Climbing it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. The metal rattled loudly as we jumped down onto the other side. The air inside immediately felt different. It smelled like dust, old rain, and decay. Everything was quiet, eerily quiet. The only sound was the wind groaning as it passed through the broken skeletal rides. Charles whispered, "Dude, this is insane," with a massive grin on his face. I just whispered back, "Yeah, and probably illegal." We started wandering between the old game booths. Faded signs still hung above them with promises like "Win a giant panda," now barely readable. The ground was a mess of old popcorn boxes and cracked, dirty glass. Every step we took seemed to echo through the silence, and then we heard it. A sharp, metallic clang that came from somewhere deeper inside the park. We both froze instantly. It sounded like someone had kicked a loose piece of metal or a gate. Charles, trying to be brave, whispered, "It's probably just the wind." But then it happened to Ganklin end. This time, it was closer. We immediately ducked behind a dilapidated cotton candy stall, our bodies pressed against the rotting wood. My flashlight beam was shaking as I swept it across the ground, and that's when it landed on a boot print. It was fresh, and the damp dirt was clear as day. "Someone's here," I whispered, my voice trembling. Charles just nodded, all of his earlier confidence completely gone. We crouched low, trying to peer through the shadows. That's when we saw him, about 30 feet away. Standing in the dark space between two ruined buildings was a man. Definitely wasn't a security guard. He was too scruffy, too unkempt. He wore old, torn clothes, like he'd been living rough for a long time. His hair was a mess, and even from that distance I could just tell something was deeply off about him. He wasn't walking or moving. He was just standing perfectly still, watching. We stayed frozen behind that stall for what felt like an eternity, too scared to even breathe. Then, without any warning, he moved on. He moved fast. He darted behind one of the food stands and vanished completely from sight. That was it. That was enough for us. "Go," I whispered, and we started creeping backwards, staying as low as we could until we felt we were far enough away to make a run for it. As we turned to sprint back toward the fence, we heard soft footsteps behind us. Slow, uneven steps, almost matching our own pace. I didn't dare look back. We just ran. We sprinted as fast as our legs could carry us, scrambled back over the fence, nearly tearing our clothes in the process, and didn't stop running until we crashed back into our tent. We zipped it shut, flicked off our flashlights, and just sat there in the dark, in total silence. Neither of us could speak. The only sound was the faint whistle of the wind outside, and the soft, rhythmic creak of metal coming from the direction of the amusement park. We didn't sleep much that night. By morning, the whole thing felt surreal, like a terrible dream. When I tried to tell my dad that we'd heard noises near the fence, he just laughed. "Probably raccoons," he said, waving it off. But as we were packing up the car to finally leave, I saw something that made my stomach drop into my shoes. Right next to the fence on our side this time was a single, perfect boot print in the dirt. Same shape, same pattern. Someone had been standing right there, watching our campsite while we slept. To this day, Charles and I still talk about that night. We have no idea who that man was or what he was doing in that abandoned park. Maybe he was just homeless, looking for shelter. Maybe he was hiding from someone. Or maybe he saw two kids sneaking where they shouldn't be and decided to follow. Whatever the explanation, that night taught me something important. Sometimes the scariest things in the world aren't ghosts or monsters. They're the people who are still out there watching, waiting, and never ever caught. Thanks for listening. If you like this story, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more. It was October of 2016, right in the middle of that whole creepy clown craze. You remember, right? Social media was flooded with grainy videos and photos of clowns standing under streetlights at midnight. Most of us just laughed it off as a weird internet trend, at least I did, till one day I couldn't. I was 16, living in New York City. It was just a normal Wednesday afternoon. School was over, I said bye to my friends, and I hopped on the subway to go home, the same route I took every single day. The platform was unusually quiet. Normally it's a sea of people, but that day it felt empty. I popped in my headphones, cranked up the music, and started scrolling through my phone. You know, typical teenagers, stuff completely oblivious to the world around me. The train rumbled through a few stops. When it finally pulled into 96th Street, my stop, I stood up without even looking away from my screen. The doors slid open with that familiar hiss, and that's when I noticed something was wrong. Someone was standing right in the doorway, blocking the exit. I finally looked up, and my heart just stopped. It was a clown. And I don't mean a funny, happy circus clown. This one just looked wrong, out of place. He had the white face paint, the bright red nose, the ridiculously oversized shoes. His clothes were too colorful, too clean, like they were fresh out of a Halloween store bag. But the most unsettling part was his expression. He wasn't smiling. He was just staring at me, completely still. My first thought was that it had to be a prank. With all those clown videos going viral, maybe someone was filming me. I glanced around, searching for a hidden camera, but there was no one else nearby. The platform was almost deserted. I pulled out one of my headphones. Excuse me? Did nothing. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just stood there, his breath quiet behind that painted smile. The doors were about to close, and I was running out of time. I decided to just try and squeeze past him. But as soon as I stepped forward, he leaned in, as if he was trying to get a better look at me. His face was just inches from mine. I could smell the grease paint. It was the most intense fear I've ever felt. Not because he did anything violent, but because he didn't have to. The silent stare was enough. The warning chime for the doors went off. I panicked. I dodged around him, stumbling onto the platform just as the doors started to slide shut. My backpack brushed against his arm, and I heard a low grunt from behind me. And then, I made the mistake of looking back. He was still there, half on the train, half off. His eyes locked on me through the closing gap. The train started to move, and he stepped off, just before the doors slammed shut. Now he was on the platform with me, standing about 20 feet away, just watching me. Every instinct in my body was screaming at me to run. I turned and started walking fast towards the exit stairs. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it over the music still blasting in my other ear. I didn't dare look back again. But as I reached the stairs, I caught his reflection in a glass sign on the wall. He was following me, not running, just walking, slow, deliberate pace. The tap-tap of his oversized shoes echoed through the empty station. I flew up the steps 2 at a time and burst out onto the street. The noise of the city, the cars, the people, the sirens hit me like a physical force. It felt safe. I finally stopped, turned around, and he was gone, vanished. I stood there for a full minute, just trying to catch my breath while people hurried past, completely unaware that my heart was about to pound its way out of my chest. I tried to convince myself it was just some idiot trying to scare people for a video. That's what everyone said about the clown craze, after all. Still, When I got home that day, I locked every door and double-checked all the windows. For weeks after, I couldn't take the subway by myself. Every time I saw someone in a brightly colored outfit, my chest would tighten. I started taking different routes, going at different times, always avoiding quiet platforms. Then, one night, I saw something online that made my blood run cold. Someone had posted a video taken at the exact same subway station, 96th Street. It showed a person dressed as a clown, pacing back and forth along the empty tracks late at night. The caption read, "He's back. Same time every week." The account that posted it disappeared the very next day. I still don't know who that person was or what they wanted. Maybe it really was just a prank that went too far. Or maybe it was something else entirely. But to this day, every time I hear the hiss of a subway door, I see that face in my mind, the white paint, the red nose, and those eyes that never, ever blinked. And I can't help but wonder, what would have happened if I hadn't gotten off that train? Thanks for listening to my story. If you have a creepy encounter you want to share, leave it in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories like this one. Stay safe out there. It was supposed to be my first real night on duty, the start of my career as a mobile security guard. I was nervous, but honestly, pretty excited. My uniform was still stiff and new. My flashlight was fully charged, and I had my supervisor, a guy in his late 20s, riding with me to show me the ropes. I had absolutely no idea that before the sun came up, I'd be standing in the suffocating darkness of an abandoned medical building, praying that something I couldn't see wouldn't find us first. The job was in Mississauga, just outside of Toronto. It was a medical clinic combined with a pharmacy. It was nothing special, just a routine site check. We'd already done a few that night, driving from one silent property to another, logging our reports, and moving on. The night was uneventful, almost boring. It was around 1:15 a.m. when dispatch radioed in our next stop. Perimeter patrol, they said. No alarm had been triggered, no incident reported, just a standard inspection. Simple enough. We arrived to find the parking lot completely silent and drenched in this thick, heavy fog. You know, the kind of quiet where your own footsteps feel like they're echoing for miles? My supervisor pulled into the driveway, killed the headlights, and turned to me. "All right, rookie," he said. "Let's do a walk around." And that's when we saw it. The massive metal door to the underground garage was wide open. And then, our flashlight beams caught the front glass door. It wasn't just unlocked, it was shattered. "What the hell? ... double quotes," my supervisor muttered, his hand immediately going to his baton. He looked up at the motion sensors mounted above the entryway. They should have triggered the alarm, but there was nothing. No blaring siren, no flashing red light. The entire security system was dead silent. Something was very, very wrong. We stepped inside carefully, our flashlights cutting sharp beams through the pitch-black lobby. The air was stale and heavy, like a place that hadn't been opened in years, but that was impossible. The clinic had just closed a few hours ago. And then, from across the lobby, the elevator dinged. Both froze and turned. The lights above the elevator doors flickered on, cycling through the numbers. B1, 1, 2, 3, 4. It was moving on its own. I leaned over to my supervisor and whispered, "Someone's here." He just nodded, his voice tight and tense. "They're on the top floor." He extended his own baton with a soft click and said, "Stay close. We go up together." Every single second in that elevator felt like an hour. As we slowly ascended, the air grew noticeably colder. The fluorescent lights inside the car flickered erratically, and I could feel my own pulse pounding in my ears. When the doors finally slid open on the 4th floor, we stepped into absolute darkness. My supervisor found the switch and flipped on the hallway lights. Half of them sputtered weakly to life, casting long dancing shadows, but the rest were completely dead. Doors to examination rooms lined the long corridor, their small windows as black as ink. My supervisor whispered, "Stick right beside me. Don't wander off." We cleared room by room at first. We found nothing. Just empty offices, silent waiting rooms, and the faint, lingering smell of antiseptic. But then, from somewhere below us, we heard it. Footsteps. Heavy, slow, echoing up through the concrete stairwell. Crept toward the sound, stopping right by the fire door that led to the stairs. The footsteps stopped too. My supervisor held up a hand, motioning for complete silence. We just stood there, listening, holding our breath. Nothing. And then a single, deliberate step. Then another. They were coming asterisk up asterisk. He grabbed his radio, his voice shaking just slightly. "Dispatch, this is Unit A4. We need immediate backup. Someone's in the building, possibly armed." The radio crackled to life. "Copy. A4. Do not engage. Hold your position. Backup is inbound." So we waited. The silence in that hallway pressed in on us like a physical weight. The hum of the elevator motor was gone now, leaving only the soft, almost imperceptible ticking of the fluorescent lights above us. I looked over at my supervisor. His jaw was clenched tight, and a bead of sweat was forming on his temple. This was a guy trained to stay calm in any situation, and he was terrified. Minutes crawled by like hours. Ow. I finally leaned in and whispered, "Shouldn't we just get out of here?" He just shook his head. "If we use the elevator, he'll hear it. If we take the stairs, we run right into him. We wait." But waiting in that dim, flickering hallway, knowing someone or something was standing just a floor below us, felt unbearable. The old building groaned with every gust of wind outside. The red exit sign at the end of the hall buzzed loudly in the silence. Then somewhere down the hall, a metal tray fell, clattering across the tile floor. We both froze, our hearts hammering against our ribs. Then the radio came alive again. "Shh, A4. Backup ETA's 5 minutes. 5 minutes." It felt like a lifetime. When we finally heard the front door open downstairs, I almost cried with relief. Voice loud and clear, echoed up the stairwell. "Security, this is Supervisor Singh. Identify." My partner let out a sharp breath. "Sir, we're on the 4th floor. There's someone downstairs. Be careful." Ain't. We heard their footsteps, multiple sets this time, moving through the lower levels. Then silence again. A few minutes later, Singh and 2 other guards joined us upstairs. "All right," he said, his own flashlight beam cutting through the gloom. "Let's sweep." We started from the top and worked our way down. Every room, every closet, every hallway, every stairwell. Nothing. We found absolutely nothing, till we reached the 3rd floor. We were halfway down the corridor when we heard it. Asterisk. Bang. Asterisk, a door on the floor below us slammed open. Then. Running footsteps, racing toward the exit. We sprinted for the stairs, shouting, but by the time we reached the lobby, the front door was just swinging shut, letting in a blast of wind and rain from the storm that had rolled in. Whoever had been inside was gone. We searched the parking lot, the underground garage, the surrounding streets, no trace. No car speeding away, no footprints on the wet pavement. The alarms, when the technician finally checked them, showed no records of any entry. It was as if the entire system had been turned off from the inside. Later that week, our company reviewed the building's camera footage. Most of it was just blank, static. But one single clip survived from the camera inside the elevator. At 1:13 a.m., just 2 minutes before we arrived, the elevator doors opened on the 4th floor. In the grainy footage, no one stepped out. But the doors stayed open for a full 10 seconds longer than they were programmed to, as if something invisible was standing there, blocking the sensors. Then the lights in the elevator flickered violently, and the doors slowly slid closed. That weekend, I got my new schedule. I was assigned to the same clinic again, only this time I'd be patrolling it alone. My supervisor tried to make a joke out of it. "Don't worry," he said with a nervous laugh. It was probably just some junkie who broke in and got spooked, but I saw the look in his eyes. He didn't believe that any more than I did. I still remember the echo of those footsteps, the slow, deliberate climb of someone coming up the stairs in total darkness. And I still think about that elevator, moving between floors with no one inside. Whatever was in that building with us that night wasn't just human, and I know when I go back there again, it'll be waiting for me. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like and subscribe for more. Stay safe out there.